Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Wildtimes with Arizona Belle. I hope you guys are all really enjoying the past few episodes as much as I am enjoying recording them. You know, the last three have been so powerful for me, and this one today is no different. And I just hope that you all are resonating as well. I've gotten a lot of good feedback, but you never know, but I hope that everybody is really enjoying it. And I would like to make a small request that if you are really kind of enjoying it and resonating with the conversations that we're having, I would love to ask you to please like, comment, and or subscribe to these YouTube videos because we're a new channel here and I really want to grow to help as many people as possible with these conversations. It's a really isolating time, and the more of a community we can form, the better. So those small acts of liking, commenting, and subscribing to the YouTube channel, it really does help us grow. So I just request that if you're into it, and I am grateful for those of you who already have. So thank you, thank you, thank you. So with that said, let's just get into it because I have a great episode for you today. So my guest today is Mary Ternovsky, who is an international speaker and author that combines her visionary understanding of astrology's role in politics and world events, offering a unique perspective on the intricate interconnections between international world events and the vibrations of the planets. And Mary is our resident smarty pants. Her brain is brilliant. And so I'm very, very excited whenever I get to pick it. With 3 higher degrees in law, business and administration, and economics from international universities, Mary has the unique ability to interpret and communicate complex astrological events in an easy and relatable manner. Some of you may remember Mary back from our Wildtimes Speakeasy Pluto Return edition last January, in which she was so accurate in so many of her predictions, things she was talking about in January, including the crisis in Europe and Germany specifically. We wouldn't have known about then. We couldn't have known about then. There was no talk of war or anything. And it's all kind of coming to fruition on the world stage right now. So her predictive success is really, really on point. And I noticed that early on with her. And honestly, she's just so spot on. And in fact, Mary and I recorded this episode a little over 2 weeks ago today that you're hearing it. And things that she talked about 2.5 weeks ago and predicted are already starting to bud on the world stage. So you're really going to want to pay attention to this episode because some of the important astrological dates that Mary discusses are just right around the corner here. So you're really going to want to pay attention, write notes down. The more information, the better. And this episode is all about preparation and cultivating courage in these wild times. And Mary is somebody who really helps us do that. So let's see, what else do I want to say before we dive in? Nothing really, other than conversations with Mary are really deep. And that's what I really appreciate about her and love having her on as a guest, because I like to dive deep. I'm a triple Scorpio, and that's where it's at these days for me. So she doesn't sugarcoat, and her wisdom, I'm just going to be frank, isn't for the faint of heart. But I think that it's the medicine that we need right now. And I think that my listeners are there with me. So with that said, I really, really hope that you will take this conversation to heart and enjoy it. And with that said, I'm just really, really excited to dive into the deep with you all today and introduce you, if you don't know her yet, to Mary Ternovsky. So without further ado, let's dive in. All right, Mary, welcome to Wildtimes. I am so excited to have you on with me today.
Thank you. Thank you very much for inviting me to your beautiful, wild, and trying times. Thank you, Arizona.
Well, I am so happy to have you again. I found you first on a different podcast, and I was blown away with your mind, basically, the way you see things. And I just think you're brilliant. And I had you on. For anybody who knows you through me, it's because you were on our Pluto Return Speakeasy in January, which, well, a lot's happened since then, right? And so I'm so happy to have you back today. And I just know my audience is going to love this chat because, well, we just tuned into what they want to talk about and what they want to hear. So we tapped in, and we're going to talk about politics. We're going to talk about
astrology, we're going to talk about astrocartography, but we're going to start by talking about courage, because courage is what is being called, well, we're all being called to be courageous right now in these wild times. That is what is being called. Everybody that listens to me has already accepted the call, but there is fear out there right now. So we are all mustering up our courage right now. And you, Mary, are somebody who just exudes courage. You have never stopped traveling this world, not COVID, not lockdown, that doesn't matter. You are out there, you are meeting real people, seeing really what's going on the ground. And so I just want to start off by saying, tell us about courage. Give us a little bit of, inspiration in that department, because it seems that's what we need right now.
Well, traveling is because of my Sagittarius placements. I've got a whole bunch of planets in Sagittarius. We want to give our audience today an overview of the tools that each and every one of us can use to really nourish that courage within us. And just like Thomas Paine used to say, I'm sure he was not only intelligent and brave man, but also good looking. I want to think so. So, there is some times that are really trying times for man's soul. And we are approaching these times right now. Now, obviously, to look into the times that we are approaching takes courage. And a lot of people who are, let's say, studying astrology or want to be a good, analyst when it comes to economic analysis, political analysis, they have to have this courage. And why do we want to look into the future events? Because we want to prepare ourselves for what is to come. And we have the right to prepare ourselves, and we have the right to be, let's say, to have the weapon in our hand to fight whatever comes.
100%. And I love that you use the word prepare, because that's another thing that we tapped into. Like, that's what we're all looking for. And you happen to have, as an astrologer, a very high accuracy rate with your predictive qualities, and we've talked about that. And so I think we should just start with kind of tapping into your lens of the astrology. I know you have some important kind of dates you want to bring up in concepts.
Thank you. First of all, let's talk about why we're even speaking about astrology, right? Astrology is something which I think is always for the elite. In the Roman Empire, astrologers were highly paid. Then later, when we look into the rise of European astrology back in 1910, 1920, there were a lot of good astrologers in former Russia. There were very good astrologers in Europe in general, in Germany as well. And then something happened. Back in 1925, it was already the Soviet Union, right? There was this astrology conference in Crimea, which is now the Russian territory. And the Soviet government invited all of these renowned astrologers to this conference. They had a bus tour, and the bus never came back. So there is definitely an interest, let's say, in when it comes to governments, when it comes to certain lobby groups, there is definitely an interest out there for people, for the general population, to not have any idea of what's going on and what's about to come. And I say astrology, we will see astrology rising again as Pluto, which is a collective planet, will enter Aquarius, and this will happen relatively soon. Then we will see a lot of people trying to find good professionals, good astrologers, and learning astrology will become very popular. Just so everyone knows, if you're dedicating your time right now to learning astrology, please do it. Please do not stop. Do not be discouraged by what is happening outside, because you're going to need this knowledge, and people will need you for this knowledge. Yeah, so this whole turmoil, first of all, we had, I don't even know how to call this disease, this madness. What word should we use? The C word.
The C, yeah, the C. You can do
Yeah,
the C and the V, the C and the V.
This, the C word. It started on certain astrological aspects, and everyone kind of agreed. You know, I saw people wearing masks on a train right now in Italy as I traveled to the mineral show. As I traveled to France, I took trains to go from Switzerland, from Italy through Switzerland to France. And these people didn't have the courage. They still, they were still sitting there in masks, right? So the world, and everyone has heard this already many times, the world is divided now into two parts: the ones who do not have any courage and cannot even think about it. They don't have the energetic capacity to do so. And into the people who have the courage and who know how to grow this courage from within. So the whole C story started back in March 2020. But now in the early 2022, we saw some very interesting astrological events. And I remember I talked about this already in January of this year, and I actually predicted the crisis which is now happening in Ukraine. Right. So how was I able to do that? And actually none of the astrologers could. Well, I know one astrologer actually who did that too. It's an American astrologer. In any case, eclipses. When we watch the events that happened around eclipse time, these are the seeds that start growing, and then, you know, whatever that flower is that comes out at the end is the end result. I remember being in Fairfax, Virginia, flying from Washington, flying from Tallahassee. I was celebrating my solar return in Tallahassee, Florida. Everyone from Florida who is watching us, who will be watching this and recording, greetings. You guys are amazing. So I remember I flew to Dallas Airport, and then went to Fairfax, and it was exactly this eclipse time. I was sitting alone, very tired, at a restaurant, at a sushi restaurant, and they had two big TV screens. On the one TV screen, they were talking about the upcoming economic crisis. And on the other TV screen, a scared woman was talking about this new, very, very dangerous virus, the Omicron. It was just the beginning. And then we saw true beginning of the economic crisis evolving. And then we saw this Omicron madness just devouring countries. We had some lockdowns in Germany. We had some new restrictions, new rules. People started getting fired from their job for not being patented. I call this patented people, because there's a certain patent on these, let's say, drugs that they consume. And I'm not going to go into the whole legal perspective on this, but it's actually very interesting. We can do another show just about legal perspective on everything that is happening, and everything that is happening right now with Roe v. Wade story, because it will have a lot of severe consequences. So in any case, this madness started with the eclipse in November, with this eclipse corridor, as we astrologers call it, and kind of developed, but no one paid attention to retrograde Venus. And Venus, before it makes, it goes retrograde, it goes like in a loop, you know, first it stations, then it turns, and then it goes retrograde, and then it stations again and goes out of that loop. And actually, Venus, ladies and gentlemen, do not listen to amateur astrologers on some YouTube channels who explain to you that Venus is a planet of love and money. Venus, not always, is a planet of simple love and money. That can be also a planet of interaction with the other side. And due to the fact that Venus was slightly colored by Mars, so to say, now I'm getting very poetic, in November, as it started this loop, you know, during the corridor of eclipses, it truly affected Europe, because the war had started in February. Actually, Ukraine is governed by the planet Venus.
Really? That is interesting knowledge. Okay.
If you look into their natal chart, the most prominent planet that they have is Venus. And I've traveled to this country many years ago. I've traveled back in early 2000s, and then 2011. Already had a certain impression of how people had changed, how they, let's say, transitioned from kind and loving and friendly into someone who really is trying to define their identity, who really struggles with defining identity, and steering into the direction of defining identity through extremes, right? So, yeah, I have very mixed feelings about this country, but I love people there, and I actually have a lot of friends who are originally Ukrainian, especially in the United States. So that is kind of a long intro, but what I want to say is that as Venus came out of this loop, the whole thing started, right? And it affected Europe immensely. So we had some conjunctions. We had the first conjunction of Mars and Pluto on March 2022. And exactly when you built this chart for Kiev, it was at 10:43:03, 10 a.m., 10:43. This is how precise we should be when it comes to astrology. We should have analytical skills, mathematical skills. We should know history very well. Okay, so at that conjunction of Mars and Pluto, things kind of laid out a foundation for something else. Why did this military action, why did it start in February? Because we have a certain, let's say, not a gap, but we have some time before and some time after when things really evolve. And why did I predict exactly the time when it's going to start? Because I took the natal chart of Ukraine and the transits, and I looked at that Venus loop, and I saw that it's going to start. The first critical dates would be in February. The next critical day would be in March. And the third critical day will be in the beginning of April. However, that date in February was the one that really exploded everything around the world, because the degrees that were there, when we look at degrees and minutes, exactly vibrated, I call it, as the degrees of the transits. You know, it's like a tune. When you tune in to things and they just start happening. So this is what exploded. Not only that country not only had severe consequences in Russia, but also in Europe and in the United States of America. Now, when we look at the natal chart of rulers of countries, it very often correlates with the fate or with the natal chart of the country. What happened? We had Olaf Scholz, the new guy, the new minister, the new ruler, so to say, of Germany. First saying that they kind of want Russian gas, then saying that they cannot pay for Russian gas in rubles, and then saying that they're not going to buy Russian gas. That, he said, we refuse to buy Russian gas. And now the narrative had changed to the evil Russians don't want to sell us gas.
It progresses pretty quickly, doesn't it, these days?
It progresses pretty quickly because Neptune is in Pisces. Neptune rules gas and oil topics. Neptune rules immigration and refugees and all of that. And Neptune in Pisces also sprinkles some discord always, because things are unclear. We cannot see truly the things. And later today, we'll talk about the crystals that will help us to see things clearly, because this is very important. So yeah, with that changing narrative, it basically it made a lot of people lose their jobs. I personally know people working for, I will not name this company, but this is the largest chemical production in Germany. They just fire their staff every day from now on because of that oil story. We are not even talking about cars and automotive industry that stopped in Germany, and German cars are very well known all around the world. We are talking about people who have to buy, and I had to watch this with tears in my eyes, people who had to buy cheaper products in grocery stores because they are trying to save money. People being completely misguided, completely scared. There is now talks about lowering the room temperature for, houses when it comes to living conditions in Germany, because they don't have any gas. They're talking about turning off electricity. So this is so far, you don't have to be an astrologer to see what consequences this story with Ukraine is going to have later down the road. Now, that conjunction of Mars and Pluto on the 3rd of March, 2022, happened to be exactly on the moon in Ukraine's natal chart. And moon are people. What happened to people? Some were killed, some had to be relocated. People were fleeing the country. Why am I talking about this right now? Because I am very impressed by my trip to France. I thought it's going to be very nice and easy, but every city I stopped at, even in France, I saw these Ukrainian refugees. And these people are bringing, due to these very unfortunate circumstances, due to all of this aggression and all of this Plutonian energy, they bring this Plutonian energy with them. I remember I had to take a train in Milan to get from one station to another, and I saw these people like being brought from 1980s, listening to some strange Russian chanson music, and it was all doom and gloom. And I was sitting there, it was 9 o'clock in the morning, and I was like, where am I? Is it like 1980s? Am I in some kind of movie? What is going on? So the face of European cities is changing through the flood of these refugees. And that is also well, I'm not going to bother everyone with the exact degrees, but it also has to do with a certain predictive chart that we can build on, let's say, we just take the 0 degrees of Aries. Everyone knows that. It's like a predictive method where you can look at a fate of each and every country by taking their natal chart or their location and building that 0 degree Aries thing. Yeah. So yeah, we have that. We had that already in March, but little did we know that actually conjunction is not the strongest astrological aspect. There are many different schools on astrological aspects, but I say that this Mars in conjunction with Pluto is going to build a square the further Mars travels from Pluto. And I will touch on that later a little bit. But if you ask me, Mary, when will this let's say military crisis in Ukraine, when will it end? I would say that it will start dying down already around Christmas time, like past Christmas time of this year. And it might come to a complete end in April 2023.
People do want to know, like, I don't think a lot of my listeners are convinced that this sort of authoritarian lockdown vibe going on in the world is going to end anytime soon. Nobody's under nobody's buying that like we're free all of a sudden, right? So maybe you can talk to that a little bit as well as you give us, continue to give us the breakdown.
I'm a little bit torn in between two ideas. The further I look into astrology for this year, for the year 2023, the more I realize that we are, and I know a lot of astrologers, from what I've heard, are talking about economic crisis. That, yes. But the more I look into the natal charts of various countries, the more I realize that these events that are about to happen this year have more of a Martian flavor, have more Mars in them. We're talking military action. We're talking fighting for resources, because as we all know, Uranus right now is in the sign of Taurus, and that is always fighting till the end for resources in conjunction, in connection to other planets that are right now there. Now, which is a very disadvantageous position for such a planet as Uranus, for such a revolutionary planet that takes things away, things that we're used to. So we should be prepared for it, and we can be prepared for it. I think it's more of if I look into the events of fall 2022, unfortunately, a little bit of hunger, yes, but it looks to me like more of a military thing, and I'll explain why. On the 5th of April 2022, we had Mars conjuncting Saturn. So they joined together. It happened at 4 a.m. 4:51. Once again, I'm talking about like Ukraine and Russia, so I took Kiev's time. And I looked through the transits up until the middle of 2023, and I realized that this conflict would probably end, in spring of 2023. By the way, for the Russians who are watching us right now, Putin is going to go, and here's my prediction for that. Probably April, anywhere April, March of 2023. You're not going to see this guy again. And probably he will be replaced with someone of a Martian nature, like a military guy. I think so. We'll see.
Wow,
But
that's big. That's big.
yeah. So we can see that once Saturn will build a square to Mars, things will start happening. Now, in a lot of traditions, and when we talk about Persian tradition and some other very old astrological schools, they used to talk always about midpoints. Now, what is a midpoint? Maybe I can just paint it. I don't have a mouse here, so I'm going to paint with my fingers, if you allow me, Arizona.
Oh, I have to allow you? Oh, yeah. No, you're allowed. Permission granted.
I'm allowed, yeah. So let's take, I hope everyone can see, sorry for my drawing skills here, I just don't have the mouse here. Let me do it again. Let me do it again. Draw a thick line. Whoop. Beautiful. Isn't this beautiful? So for example, we had conjunction here, right? Or let's even say the eclipses. There's like a corridor of eclipses that we are about to expect, like in November, around November, mid-elections, you guys. And then there were eclipses in April and May, if I recall correctly. So, or even when it comes to conjunctions, the same story, right? The planets are together, but the result, so here's the line, but the result, the first fruit of all of this shenanigan right here, we will see at the midpoint. And when is this midpoint? I can tell you exactly. Around new moon and full moon. We're talking when is the new moon and full moon. So the new moon is 28th of July and the full moon is the 12th of August 2022. So we will see a lot of things happening around 30th of July, between that date and the 13th of August. Okay.
And where do you expect to see things happen? What kind?
What kind of things? Well, what is Mars? What is Saturn? What is Pluto? War, destruction, hunger, restrictions. So we will see a lot of things going down the drain around that end of July and mid-August, definitely. Now, when you ask me, Mary, where is it going to happen, right? We have to look at each and every natal chart of each and every country.
Okay, well, we can't do
I know
that
for Russia, this will have major consequences, as well as for Ukraine, as well as for Germany. About a year ago, I think, or 2 years ago, as actually we talked about this on your show about Pluto return. Is that right? Did I talk about Germany there?
A little, yeah, you did, yeah.
I mean, this is definitely coming, you guys. This potato war. If anyone has a recording, or if you know, some of the members of your audience watched it, you guys know what I'm talking about. This potato war in Germany is definitely happening because there's a lack of resources already. If they don't have a gas, if they don't have an access to some gas, it definitely will be happening, is already happening. So Saturn, restrictions, Martian energy, Mars that wants to break through and change things. A lot of doom and gloom. However, if we have such dramatic events, we don't see them right away. We don't feel them right away. It takes time. You know, the planets come together degree to degree. And then a few weeks later, we see empty shelves in our grocery stores. It already happened with that what is it, baby, like the dry milk
Yeah, the
formula.
baby formula. Yeah. In the
Yes.
yeah.
But the event before was clearly showing that this is going to happen, or that something like this will happen, right? It was like a Plutonian thing from my perspective, the way I see it. So I keep seeing also some sort of stock market crash, like really big one. I think bigger than in 1929.
Okay.
But this will not happen in August. I think this should happen around the first like week of September. We
Okay.
will see. So here you are, you guys, here we are. We are already prepared. Do we want to keep money in our banks? No. Should we invest
back to
our money?
preparation, right? Back to preparation.
Preparation.
Because we know it's doom and gloom. My people know this, but it's also preparation and hope for the better world. So yes, exactly. Like now you gotta start saying, because like you said earlier, like it doesn't take an astrologer to see some of this stuff. Obviously, it explains it and you can kind of prepare and predict before other people. But you know, we can see like an economic crash isn't a stretch by any means, right? We already see it happening. How many thousands of dollars have people lost in the stock market already and in crypto and all this? So I think that now it's like, I'll let you continue, but yeah, it's like getting the prepared mindset, right?
Exactly. I mean, you're in the hot spot of cryptocurrency right now. I know a lot of people who earned good money on crypto and relocated to Mexico. So what are your friends saying about crypto right now?
I mean, they're saying buy it, you know, like I mean, I think everybody's hurt a little bit, you know, obviously is some big losses that just happened, but that they're still in, you know. And you're right, there's a lot of people, a lot of people coming here, crypto people, you know, looking for sovereignty and setting up shop here, really.
Well, you see, it's good that we're talking about this. So let's look at this from analytical perspective, from a very objective perspective. Stocks go down, companies are like, fuck it, we're broke, but you know, worth nothing. Like stock market crashes, might be even closed for a few days in the United States. But what would people do? They would run into crypto market right away because they're so attached to the idea of having money. Who are they without money? What can they do without money? So people identify themselves through money. They tie their worth to the money topic so much. And this has been happening. This has been going on the past 600 years. Now, I went to the city of Siena, here close by, and I saw the very first bank in the world, very dark building from the Middle Ages. Now, all of this is coming to an end, but maybe this is a topic for the next show where we can mention and really show people, like with real natal charts, how the axis, how the focus of the entire humanity is going to shift from the material world into the intellectual world. Books, you know, that I've had a student at one of my courses, the course which is called Release, on emotional release. It was in April, end of April, beginning of May, here in Tuscany. So we all flew into Tuscany. My students were here, and one of them originally from St. Petersburg, living in Hamburg for a long time. She's been living there. She told me a story of how all of the true nonfiction books in St. Petersburg were bought over the past decade and stored in some facilities. And actually, people are looking right now into buying books on logic, chemistry, physics, and they cannot find them. All you can find in St. Petersburg bookstores, or some fiction books, new books, not old. The
Interesting.
knowledge will be so valuable. Oh, it's going to be amazing. It's going to be very interesting, but we are going to go through shit before that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that. I think intuitively that is felt, as far as information being sort of the new currency. I feel like that is a shift that 2020 definitely brought in for whatever reason. And you can just see it. What are people investing time in? They're investing time in podcasts like this that really dig into, the intellect and what's going on here in the world, more so than the material, like you say. So I could see that already happening pretty clearly.
And once again, you can look at lunar nodes differently depending on the school, astrological school you follow. But the traditional view of looking at lunar nodes, and you and I, we know about lunar nodes because I was lucky enough to do an astrocartography session for you, and we mentioned that. We talked about that. I remember.
So amazing, by the way.
Yes.
Astro-cartography session with Mary, which we'll get into a little about all that later. But yeah, it was amazing. So continue on. Just giving you a little plug. It was incredible.
So in any case, lunar nodes, south node shows something that we should steer away from. It's old information, old world, but we do have a tendency to follow to go our old ways. And north node shows the direction towards which we should move, the area, the skills that we should develop. Now we have the north node in Taurus, which is physical world, gathering things, enjoying the nature, being close to the nature, finding harmony within yourself, finding this balance. And we have the south node in Scorpio. What is Scorpio? Banks, aggression, war. Will Putin win? He followed the south node of aggression, Scorpio. He will not win in the sense that he wanted. Will people right now who, instead of having money on their bank account, who invest in, property, buying land, investing their time and money into agriculture for themselves and their loved ones, will they win? The answer is yes, because they follow the general direction of the north node. So we had a north node in Gemini when the whole thing with the sea disease started. Gemini, filtering out information, finding the right information for you, digging for it yourself, researching what are the ingredients of this experimental patented drug. And the south node was in Sagittarius. Now, the worst side of Sagittarius is being moralistic and trusting someone, trusting an authority. What happened to people who trusted their authorities? What happened to them? They have immense damage. And we will see this damage happening more and more.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
I know, I just want to throw in, this is very basic, but also I think of Sagittarius, and I am North Node Gemini and South Node Sag. And Sagittarius is very much moving around, right? Traveling, adventure. And how many people did you hear got the thing because they just wanted to travel?
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? That was one of the number one things I heard. Well, I just want to travel.
Yeah. I personally had friends who did that because they were so attached to the idea of traveling. They were not able to follow the pure Gemini energy and filter out information, find ways how they can do it without damaging themselves. They just did it. And were people able to travel? No, not really.
But did we? Did you and I? Did you and I travel?
How to put it? I know
I
what
saw you
crystals to
traveling.
wear. I know what crystals to wear, and even I struggled because being under lockdown, living alone in Frankfurt, you know, and loving traveling
Right.
as like really two things. I remember coming in March of last year to the United States. I was alone on a big, big plane. And I also remember the first glass of Chardonnay in Virginia, where I was sitting with my friends and I saw people gathering at other tables without masks. And I almost had tears in my eyes because it was shock, because the restaurants were closed in Germany since the 1st or the 30th of September of 2021, of 2020, I'm sorry. And it takes toll on you. You change.
Yeah.
So a lot of people right now psychologically are totally unhealthy in terms of they don't even realize what damage has been done to them. But you're absolutely right about this traveling situation. Now, I just used the right crystals. I just researched law, right? Because I'm certified paralegal in the state of Maryland. So I love all of the law topics. This actually saved me. It saved my mental health. I traveled to the US last year 5 times for my lectures.
Exactly. And that's all the point I was trying to make. Yes, was it hard? Yeah. Were we restricted? Yeah. But I was still moving free as I could. And I know a lot of people that were doing the same. It's a mindset thing, you know, you can still travel with the information that you have about this thing, that, you know what I'm saying? There are different ways about it. And I love the way you described it as with the nodes. Like if you follow that north node, you're in good shape. And you can, so with the Sag Gemini situation, now we're shifted into Taurus Scorpio, and you can tell, you can see it. Of course, the people that invest in the agriculture and the food and in their own stuff, making their sovereign place in this world, right, are going to win.
You're right. But now Uranus is going to try to take it away. We're
Shit.
having an honest conversation.
Mary, come on.
You guys, we'll try to take it away. I personally saw, and I speak perfect German, I personally saw with my own eyes, and I've read the document on Vermögensabgabe. Vermögen is property and wealth. Abgabe is like you're giving it away by yourself. It's Entwurf. It's a sketch, so it's a draft. That if the German government, if they are to vote on that, would allow the German government to fight the sea disease economical consequences with taking stuff away from people.
Okay.
And if this draft is there, it's definitely going to take a shape of something real. Probably by spring of 2023, because Pluto return, ladies and gentlemen, is happening not only for the United States, it is happening for the entire world. And I can show you actually a book which I just started reading. Why did I start? Let me see if it's here. Yeah. So I was trying to find a book that would describe the Pluto where it used to be before the return 248 years ago. And I found this book, not sure if you can see it. So it's called Global Crisis, War, Climate Change, and Catastrophe in the 17th Century. Now, as you can see, it's pretty, there's a lot to read. But it will.
The age of information. We're going to be reading books like this all the time, y'all.
It will be sexy. It will be so sexy.
It already is. It already is.
So far, very interesting and gives me a lot of insights into what might happen because population just dwindled. Population went down in the 17th century dramatically. Something happened, a series of events happened, which, emptied European cities. So you should know this because this is Pluto return right here. Know your history. Very interesting. I'm going to put it down here. Maybe we can even add a link to this book.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, pretty cool. If you guys have time, you can sit down. It's a nice, easy read. Where were we? We talked about cryptocurrency and the upcoming, perhaps, stock market crash. So the stock market goes down, and then all of the people run towards crypto. They're trying to buy a ledger, storing devices. They will try to register with Binance, with all of these to get all of these wonderful things. But this looks like it would also go down probably by the end of November, beginning of December. So if you want to earn some digital money, do it until the end of November and then sell it. Do something with it. You cannot hold on to it for too long.
That is good to know. That is very good to know. Okay, so Mary, we're going to take just a quick break here. And that's because we need to redo our drinks and whatnot, and they just started doing construction next door, so I think it's a perfect time. I'm going to give you guys off to my sponsors for a minute, and Mary and I will be back in a flash on your end, so be right back. Hello everyone, I hope you're enjoying the show. We're going to take a quick sponsorship intermission and get right back to it. So I want to give a huge thank you to my sponsorship launch squad, 3 amazing women who came together to support me so that I could launch this podcast. That's Andrea Donnelly, Julia Ryan, and Alyse Bacine. I'm going to tell you briefly a little bit about each of them and what they are offering my audience. That's you, and it's a lot that they're offering, so you're going to want to listen. So that said, this podcast is brought to you by Andrea Donnelly, who is a spiritual mentor, quantum energy healer, and founder of We Are Here to Remember, a community that helps usher in a new way of living in harmony as we move into the golden age. Now, if the name Andrea Donnelly sounds familiar, it might be because she's written an article for us on wildtimesmedia.com called, you're going to love this, 10 Ways to Navigate Planet Earth with as much grace as humanly fucking possible. An article we all need right now. And yes, she is as amazing as that title suggests. Using light language, energy healing, the Akashic records, and channeled messages, Andrea helps you remove intergenerational, I can never say that word, intergenerational trauma, illness, and fears, aligning you with your highest possible timeline. And she knows what the fuck she's talking about, guys. Just 2 years ago, she was disabled and downtrodden, and guess what? She healed herself using the very same method she now teaches her clients. So if you're ready to drop the excuses and finally transform your life for good, you're going to want to give Andrea a follow. And the best way to do that is to sign up for her newsletter. In doing so, you get a free light language audio healing, which will support emotional and physical weight loss, which in the pandemic era, we all have either one or both of those to lose for sure. Plus, you'll also receive a discount on a client session, a new client session with Andrea. So visit her website. We are here to the number 2 remember.com. That's wearehere2remember.com to join her list and get in on these freebies. And for all you hip kids on Instagram, you can find her at C Witchery. That's SEA Witchery, WITCHERY. So thank you, Andrea. And next up, this podcast is brought to you by Julie Ryan. Julie is a businesswoman and inventor who, as she puts it, learned how to do the woo more than 25 years ago. Now is a profound medical intuitive and psychic who offers, as she says, a buffet of psychicness, I love her, to her clients. She teaches others, you, how to do the woo too. I found Julie shortly after the death of my mom when I read her book, Angelic Attendants, What Really Happens as We Transition from One Life to the Next. Now, I had read a lot of afterlife books at that point because I was seeking, but her stood out because
In it, she explains what's actually going on when someone passes from a spiritual lens, from what she can see. And she details what she calls the 12 phases of transition. It's so comforting for anybody who's dealing with loss, death, grief, anything like that. So I highly recommend you check into that if that interests you. Sadly, if you're in the throes of grief, it's a great book that brings comfort. But what I really want to tell you about is what Julie's up to today, because I think you're going to like it. She's launched a new self-paced course called Angels and Enlightenment Training, where you will learn to communicate with spirit, develop and validate your intuition, and identify the 12 phases of transition for yourself. The best part is that this course is super affordable. This training is truly a gift for anyone wanting to dive deeper into their intuitive gifts during this wild time in history, which I know is a lot of us. And most importantly, practice sessions are offered each week that will help you ramp up your skills quickly. So you can find all the details about the new Angels and Enlightenment Training, as well as her books, services, and weekly podcasts at askjulieryan.com. Again, that's askjulieryan.com. And be sure to follow Julie on Instagram as well, at askjulieryan, to keep in the loop on all of the things. I'm going to do this without any mistakes, guys. Last but certainly not least, this podcast is brought to you by Alyse Bacine. Alyse is a leading spiritual mentor and breathwork practitioner. Her mission: to help women quickly get to their next level selves without trauma playing a role in their highest potential. Woo! Featured in prestigious publications like Nylon, Thrive Global, Medium, She Knows, and Yahoo. Also Wildtimes, by the way, she's published an article there. Alyse offers mentorship programs that are deeply rooted in healing familial, ancestral, and transgenerational programming. Ooh, yeah, so that women can navigate wealth, partnership, life, and their intuition with grace on a quantum level. Now, I met Alyse when she joined me as a guest speaker, as a panelist at our monthly Wildtimes Speakeasy event. Not only is she inspiring and insightful, she is as real as it gets. My community loved her, and I know you're going to as well. She also hosts her own podcast called Reclaiming Consciousness, where she interviews thought leaders in the spirituality and self-development spaces about, you're going to love it, exiting the matrix. And a little secret, I'm going to be on her podcast soon, so you're definitely going to follow along. So what I want you to do is to go to AlyseBreathes.com. That's Alyse, A-L-Y-S-E, Breathes, B-R-E-A-T-H-E-S.com. Sign up for her newsletter list to keep up with all she's up to. And she offers a bunch of freebies when you sign up for her list. What she calls a next level expansion toolkit, which includes a free breathwork session, journal prompts, and a meditation. I utilize these myself, and it gave me the kickstart I needed to get back here. So I highly recommend it. And so again, it's AlyseBreathes.com for all the things, and follow Alyse on Instagram as well for all the fresh content. That's at Alyse_breathes. That's it. Back to the show. Okay, we are back from break. We're all refreshed. Mary got her coffee. I got more water, and we're going to talk some more astrology. We're going to talk some crystals. We're going to hopefully end on a empowering note. We'll see. Because you know what? We are talking about real stuff on this podcast, and it does get a bit doom and gloom, but that's the world we live in right now. And we were all born for this moment, this revolutionary moment, right? So let's get back into this astrology, and basically let's talk about when shit's going to hit the fan, Mary, because I know you got some intel and on that you're going to share with us, and then we'll move along to the crystals and whatnot.
On the encouraging note, Thomas Paine said, once the mind is enlightened, it can never go dark. So you're investing, by watching this video, you guys are investing your time correctly. So when the shit will hit the fan, first of all, if we talk about Uranus, the planet of disruption, the revolutionary planet that takes things away, it will dance around the North Node the entire August and September. So that's the time when things will really get disrupted for the United States, for Europe as well. But as we already know, first things start in the United States, and then as a wave, they kind of echo in Europe. in a dramatic way sometimes. We have Uranus, from what I remember from my calculations, dancing around August, September, but the exact dates, and you can check it out and watch the events on these dates, when the planets we talked about, Mars, being in exact conjunction with Uranus, which is very interesting. When the planet of war and the planet of disruption come together, this will happen on the 1st of August. And speaking of the squares, when things come to fruition and really show themselves, we have Mars squaring Saturn. Remember that conjunction in the beginning of spring? So now we will see Mars squaring Saturn, and it will happen on the 7th of August. That's the exact square. Now, depending on the country's natal chart, things might happen, things might not happen there vividly, but I expect some things to happen around the 7th of August of this Martian, Saturnian nature. And then what else is important? The climax. So we always remember that square is like a climax of the event. So we will see some climax there in August. A lot of people are talking about July. July is like coming up the stairs towards climax that is happening in August, September. What does this mean for us? Now, I wanted to buy some hectares of land, agricultural land here in Tuscany. And I spoke to the guy who is selling it. And he said, Mary, I'm back in Italy, end of December, in January maybe. So we will sign our contract then. But not now, knowing Mars squaring Saturn and knowing that all of these events are about to happen, I know that the contract deal will not be signed in December, January, just because it will not happen, because people and notary in Italy, it takes a long time to sign documents, to arrange things. You need to see lawyers, you need to meet people. I know that it will not be happening, so I said, okay, screw it, I'm going to look for another option. Okay, so for people who are postponing the signing of documents or their travel plans to late October, November of this year, especially for the citizens of the United States of America, I highly recommend you guys to finish all of your to-dos, to finish all of your stuff before this time. Okay. That is a practical advice. Now, I know that some people sit around on YouTube and talk about what is the best country to invest into. Oh, Frey is drinking again. They're talking about, yeah, it's very hot outside, so she's totally thirsty. So, they're talking about what is the best country to move to, where should we open up a bank account. Number one, bank accounts, forget about this. Number two, you cannot sit on your ass and talk about other countries if you haven't visited them. So if you want to relocate somewhere, actively buy plane tickets and go now. See how you feel there. One amazing tool which really makes things easier and really helps us is astrocartography. You can order an astrocartography consultation, and you can actually find out where is the right place for you. Now, one of my friends, he is German, and he is into investment and finances. He's been very successful with, let's say, financial advices, right? And he has a lot of followers, and he's got like this huge base, like huge community of usually German-speaking people from Germany, Austria, and Switzerland who follow him. And he used to say, now let's all go to Paraguay. Let's all go to Uruguay. But what happens if in that Uruguay or Paraguay is your Saturn line or Mars line, or even better, Pluto line? You want to freaking die there? No. So astrocartography is way better, is an amazing tool that can show you where you will be successful or where you will find that partner that you've been looking for in wrong places.
Literally in wrong places. Yeah. And I'll just interject here and say that my astrocartography reading with you is really just so in depth and amazing, and it is interesting how spot on that stuff is, you know. And I think I'm supposed to go to Panama, so that's going to be on my list too here.
Exactly. If people plan a vacation, it's way better to travel to their Venus line than to their Mars line. I literally had several clients who did not use astrocartography. It was before they met me, and they traveled with their girlfriends or boyfriends to a Mars line, and they broke up right there immediately. Wow. There are some energies that we cannot define right now. What is astrocartography? These are planets projected onto the planet Earth in form of planetary lines. So there's a certain vibration, there's a certain energy that is there that makes you act a certain way, that attracts certain events, that creates events, that attracts certain people, brings them into your life. I also have seen a lot of people getting married or finding that love that they've been looking for on their Venus line or on their moon line. But you can, unfortunately, you cannot just pull up astrocartography like on some of the free websites and say, oh, here it is. First of all, you don't know what calculation they're using. And second of all, you need to analyze your natal chart first before traveling to this or the other line. But I can clearly say from my perspective, from the experience of my clients, it really freaking works. It works.
Absolutely. And you know, it's like our whole theme here is prepare and courage, right? So it's like we have to be real that whether it's because someone's forced to be a refugee or because people are waking up to certain awarenesses, people are relocating right now. They are. And this is a great tool to make sure that you are prepared, you know, in your quest of where to be, because whether it's across the world or the next state over to buy land or the next country over to buy land, we are moving around right now. And I think there's a reason for that. We need to be where we need to be, right? Where we will thrive in this chaos that's surely not going to end anytime soon, right? So this is a great tool for that.
Thank you for saying that. We want to thrive. We don't want to survive. We want to thrive. And I don't know, I'm thinking about Thomas Paine all the time today. Look, he was very successful in the US. I bet he traveled to his Jupiter line there or to his Uranus line there. That's why he was able to inspire so many people. Common sense pamphlet and with all of the literature that he was printing. When he came to Pennsylvania, they put him in charge of a Pennsylvania magazine right away. And he never did this before, because back in England, I think he had like a shop or something. Like he was not in business at all. But he got on the right line and he became popular. People started listening to him. What happened to him in France? It was probably not a good line, because when he tried to inspire the French Revolution, and if our listeners are thinking, why are you guys talking about Thomas Paine? We don't really care. Well, we should, because our Pluto return is about that time when we had Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Paine, all of these dudes hanging out together. Okay, so so when he ended up in France, they wanted to kill him. I think he had like a writing on his prison door that he is the next one to be, let's say, beheaded or shot. I don't know what they did. He just closed the door for the guards not to see that mark. So we all want to have this wit and that zest for life, and we can talk about crystals a bit later. Crystals that really inspire you to have this desire to live, because we are going to need this. There will be so many, and there are already so many depressed people around us who simply, they've given up. All of these people wearing masks, depriving themselves of oxygen, all of these people who kind of like play characters from Aldous Huxley, The Brave New World, you know, the Epsilons. Because if you remember this book, you remember how they raised slaves.
Yep. Oh, I remember.
How did they raise slaves? Let's remind everyone. They deprived them of oxygen because they had certain groups, certain societies, right? So in any case, we want to be like that guy, Thomas Paine, who closes the door and says, hey, I'm out of this story. But he probably traveled to his Saturn line or some kind of, probably it sounds like Saturn on Imam Coeli, I think, where he traveled to. But I don't know. I haven't reviewed his horoscope. I don't know. I haven't seen his natal chart. I'm just speculating. But you don't want to end up in a difficult situation. Review your astrocartography, make a plan. If you see you have a good line somewhere else, just book the ticket and go there. However, and Arizona and I talked about this a couple of days ago, just briefly when we had a brief phone call. There is some certain of anxiety and resistance to making a change that is very strong in us. And, you know, here is happiness. You can reach it, you can touch it. It's almost tangible, but yet you sit on your ass and you cannot book that flight ticket, or you cannot book that Airbnb, and you cannot make any arrangements. Arizona, what do you think from your perspective? What is the background story for this kind of behavior?
Fear. I mean, that's what it is. I mean, because I think that, Mary, even in the best of times, like we're talking about relocation, right? Or moving, or even just going to book the ticket to visit in the middle of the craziness of the world.
Yeah.
That is all hard to do in an ideal world for a lot of people, because at the end of the day, there's a lot of people that do like their stability and to know what's going to happen. I think it's kind of a rare trait to be born with, to move with uncertainty, right? That I think it's rare. So I think it's just, it comes down to courage and fear, right? As the two kind of sides of the coin, and courage has to be cultivated for most people.
Very true. Courage has to be cultivated. From my experience, a lot of people who have difficulties leaving their home country also have some contracts with this country. It might be from previous lives, or it might be just imprinting some free-floating memories from this life. So, for example, your parents told you, no, you better stay where you are. Like, there's a whole bunch of proverbs in German and Russian language. I'm not going to speak any German or any Russian right now, not to scare anyone, but like, you better stay where you were born, which is not true. And we will see a lot of people relocating, however, not out of their free will, but because life is going to kick their ass very soon. And Ukraine is just the beginning of it. So these people had contracts. The people who had difficulty relocating, who stayed till the very last moment where they are, They had like oaths and Versprechungen, promises from past lives. It's crazy. And sometimes if we start living on a certain land, this land gives us the so-called blessing. It happens unconsciously. The land is interested in people who live on that land to take care of it. So there is like an invisible bond, which does not make you free. And I would recommend for people who want to relocate, for people who will watch this video, people from Europe, from the United States, number one, review your astrocartography. Number two, check yourself for all of these oaths and beliefs around the land where you are currently, because it might not be beneficial. I had a student. It was my Connect course, also was held here recently in Tuscany. And I had one attendee literally having difficulties flying here. And then she said to me, Mary, she was German. She said, I had such a schlechtes Gewissen. I had such a bad consciousness about leaving Germany. And then we checked with kinesiology test, and she really had all of these promises, like I have to stay in Germany. Germany is going to go down the drain without me. Because she started talking about like, I feel so responsible somehow for the place where I live. I have this subconscious feeling that if I were to leave Germany, that things will really go bad, and I feel responsible for these people. Is she a governor? No. It was all from previous lives and from her, let's say, conditioning and some of the beliefs that she picked up while living there. Mm. So this is also a very strong factor. And once again, facing the truth. Facing the truth. I know some people who are so oblivious to, oh, yeah, she is supporting our case. And yes, there are some people who are just in total denial, in total denial. Yeah, with that said, when I was in France right now and here in Italy, in big cities, I see Ukrainians. Some of them have money. Some of them are hanging out at exclusive restaurants. Some of them hang out at a train station, waiting for that next bus or that next train with one backpack. But in both cases, this energy feels very uneasy. And it's not because they don't know the language of the country they're traveling to or through. It is because their energetical system is tied to the area where they lived and where they grew up. Now, let me ask you a question, Arizona. How did you feel when you came to Mexico, like the first few weeks? How did you feel? How did it feel for you?
I felt great. Yeah,
So,
I felt excited, but I feel that generally anywhere I move or go to. So for me, it was the rush of being somewhere new. It's very ingrained in me. My first flight to Germany was in the womb. You know what I mean? Like I've been traveling since birth. So I felt great. Yeah,
you're a traveler. I mean, you've lived in Spain, right? You kind of like very international.
All over Europe. Yeah. And then now, now here. So.
Well, some people, although they feel excited about a certain change in their life, once they come into a new country, they feel uneasy. I can speak for some of, let's say, some of my friends, my clients. They feel uneasy because it's a new energy, and their energy is actually tight. It's being held by the country where they're from a lot of times. And I can understand them. So the crystal number one that helps people to feel at home in a new place, in a new environment, is chrysoprase. And I have bought at the Sainte Marie Ox Mines show some beautiful examples. I'm going to show them right now. It has a beautiful like apple, like green apple color, if you can see. And it's close to transparent. So when you hold it up against the sunlight, you can see through. Oops. Do you see this green?
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah, it's one of the nice examples. Now, obviously, they can be more intense in color. There is a mine in western part of Australia that has really good quality chrysoprase. And there is one mine in Kazakhstan that produces like really high quality chrysoprase. But once again, at the show, I haven't seen anyone from Australia because although now they're open, but somehow people have this fear of traveling. They unlearn.
It's kind of like you were saying earlier, how the lockdowns, that quarantine, like being alone, it really changes people. And Australia has been so, I mean, they literally have been so locked down, much like Canada, right? And very strict. And it just, yeah, it changes people to the point where even when it's open, you want to stay in the cage, right?
Would be very interesting to look at the natal chart of Australia. Please, you guys, write down in the comment box below if you know the exact date, official date, so we can build a natal chart for this country. Because when did the lockdowns, when did they start? They started when Saturn was in a bad aspect to Uranus. Right. And once again, we're going to have Saturn square Uranus very soon again. So we're going to have again, the situation where people will not be able to fly. But it seems like, I bet if we were to look at the natal chart of Australia, some Saturn Uranus story will be very present there. I bet. So in any case, Saturn Uranus, chrysoprase. I pronounce it differently because I've learned geology from Russian geologists. But this is from Chalcedony family, the crystal. Now, you can imagine a whole bunch of very thin crystals growing together. So it's not like, I don't want to stand up. I have a lot of crystals. Oh, here we go. Here is blue Chalcedony. I found this piece in the rivers of Tuscany myself. I did some mining here. Yeah, I was digging them out. So basically, it helps you, this crystal really helps you to feel at home in a new place. It opens up your heart chakra in a way where you become less critical of yourself and others. And what happens when you do not internally criticize other people? You attract them because they feel that you're open. And it really has this very soothing effect of like, hey, everything is going to be all right. I'm going to survive and thrive. I will find new ways. I will learn the language, or I will find people of my kind in the country. So definitely a crystal. And I've consulted some of my colleagues, some of my friends, geologists, and they confirmed. I've also seen this with my clients because I do like lithotherapy lectures. Litho in Greek is crystal or stone therapy, healing. So this is probably the crystal that if you still have a chance of buying, please do. I do sell some, but they go away real quick. And yeah, you would have to contact me for that because I usually have very exclusive pieces and people understand the difference. As far as the second crystal that I want to talk about and encourage everyone to have, not only for relocation, but for truth. Truth for yourself. Look at your life. Are you living in a dream that we are ascending or descending into the fifth dimension, that it's all light and lovey-dovey energy? Or do we see the reality? The reality is that gas will be turned off, electricity will be turned off in a lot of countries in Europe. Reality is that midterm elections in the United States are going to cause chaos. Not only political chaos, but chaos right here in people's minds. So this is the reality. It's not a fifth dimension, ladies and gentlemen. Get real, like get real. And the crystal that really helps to get real is, guess what it is?
I don't have a guess. Don't make me guess. I am not a lithotherapist.
It's pyrite.
Pyrite, okay.
This one is from Peru. Now, what they call fool's gold, but it's ridiculous name. It's better than gold. If you have some extra money, invest into crystals right now, because the prices for these dudes have gone up since I published my book on Boost Your Immune System with the Help of Crystals. Even my friends now at the gem show, they said, Mary, what did you do? Like, we cannot buy pyrite, like good quality pyrite anymore. You just marketed it so well. And this is my favorite variety of pyrites. This is from my friend, a famous geologist. I'm not going to tell you about the name of this mine. I want to keep it private. But these cubic pyrites, they're not polished. It's nature.
Wow.
They basically, so what do you think they do? Like what once you have it in your space, what do you think this one does?
Reflects negative energy?
Absolutely true. Absolutely true. So it works against all kinds of pollution. If we have this negative information around us and a lot of people scared and in chaos, it really shakes us up and like, hey, sober up, you know, crystal up, get yourself together. Everything is going to be all right. You need to do 1, 2, 3, 4, like the steps. And because of its crystalline structure, it really structures the energy and the vibration around us. So we get very systematic, very organized, and quick. And sometimes people lag this. How often have you guys been searching for your passport to travel right before your flight? I know it happened to me a few times. Yeah. So it really gets you organized. And if I can say, if I can use the word courage for any crystal, this would be the crystal number 1. It's pure courage. It is steering away from servitude into the direction of it. I am my own boss. I am my own magician. I am my own master, and I manifest my own reality. It's really amazing, amazing results.
All right. Well, this is awesome. I know that all the people listening and a lot of my friends are thinking about relocating, or they are relocating, or they're at least wanting to go check out other places right now. It is a time of, especially after the lockdowns and you can't move. Nobody likes to be told they can't move, even if they don't like to move a lot, you know? So I think there is a call for people to be moving around a bit. And, you know, like you said, like, just bringing this all back, like you just said, the staring away of servitude and I am my own boss. And the idea of sovereignty right now is so huge. These crystals, the astrocartography, everything we've been talking about today, astrology in general, these are tools to help us get to be the own sovereign bosses of our life. And that does take courage. And that's why we're talking about courage today. This is a scary place right now. This is a scary world right now. No matter how fearless of a person you might be, this is all wild. That's why this is called Wild Times, this podcast. So I just want to wrap it up just by asking you for sort of your closing remarks, Mary, on these ideas of courage and sovereignty and preparation. Anything you feel called to wrap up with that my listeners might benefit from hearing?
Well, Arizona, first of all, I make wishes that we meet again for another podcast. I find your audience really fascinating, up to date, very sharp. And these are the kind of people you want to connect with, because connecting to the right, courageous people is the key to success in this case. The second thing would be, do not get intimidated by that Gemini Mars that will make its loop. It's going to be nasty, right? It's like a Venus loop that I talked about at the beginning. Mars will go retrograde, but before that, he will be stationary for some time. Imagine that Martian energy just all over you. Do not get intimidated by this. And what do I mean by that? Stop getting attached to things. Work on your attachment. The book I started reading just yesterday, I can totally recommend. This is from one of my lamas, one of my Tibetan lamas, and I'm into Tibetan Buddhism. It's Chogyal Namkhai Norbo Rinpoche. And this book is very simple. It's called Freedom from Attachment. So work on your mind and try to tap into how you can stop getting attached to people, places, and institutions, because they're all going to disappear, or they will start disappearing very soon. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And it's the best training. Unfortunately or fortunately, we are in the age of Neptune, collective planet, being in Pisces. So it's in fashion right now to defund the police. It is very much in fashion right now to give money to refugees. It is very much in fashion to hear to emotional, pointless, kind of scattered stories of politicians. They cry on stage. They're very unclear in their messages. They appeal to people's emotions, pity, victimhood, very Piscean energy, victimhood, right? Everyone loves victims. They send money to victims. None of this will be happening in 2024. So prepare already for 2023, because you will not be able to compare it to 2020, 2021, 2022. It will be a whole new story. Have you guys seen the new cover of The Economist?
No, but I always like to check them out because they're always telling us what's coming. So
it is, I mean, they did not place Uranus and Taurus sign on the cover, but basically it's like Uranus in Taurus and the North Node thing. It's like a big pyramid made out of oil barrels and rockets.
oh, wow. Well, and the one before was like the wheat fields. Was that, I think that was either Time or Economist. The wheat fields and the heads of the wheat were little skulls, little skeleton heads. Like, come on. Yeah. So they're letting us know.
They're letting us know. It's the rule. I mean, they have to.
It is the rule.
So
they have to. Yeah.
So that's it. And you already know that people will be fighting for resources. We cannot control the barrels of oil. We cannot control where the rockets will strike. However, I don't want to scare anyone, but I think Berlin might be a very dangerous place in October. I don't want to say any more, like it's not in a format of this podcast. Yeah, but in any case, we cannot control these barrels of oil. We cannot control the rockets. What we can control is our mind and our energy. Keep your energy clean, work on your mind, gather information, use astrocartography, and join Arizona's podcast, which is an amazing hangout place for people who don't just want to survive and get by, who want to thrive. Okay, and before traveling to that Uruguay or Paraguay, check your astrocartography lines. I know that it is 1,400 or 1,700 euros right now to get a residency in Paraguay. If you have good lines there, just go ahead and take a chance, because the more documents you have, the bigger is your capacity, your ability in these times.
You're right. And I just want to touch on a couple of things you said before we sign off here. I agree with you. The more documents, visas, you know, I'm lucky to be a dual citizen, but the more you can kind of get in on places, you know, I'm going to go for my Mexican stuff and all this other stuff. It is good right now as far as the freedom in a contracting world. And I just want to say, you know, you mentioned the book Freedom from Attachment there. And I've been saying, to my best friend for a couple months now, or like honestly, like a year, like I feel like I've lost everything. Like I feel like I've gone through, and not lost in like a griefy way necessarily, but it's like I purged everything. And it's like, man, when's this gonna end? Like my last flip-flop broke, you know, like it's like everything. And I feel like I started to get the picture, like you're getting prepared for what's to come. Like you need to prepare to not attach to these things, situation, places. And like, that is a hard, difficult thing to feel, even as somebody that's used to uncertainty and flux. Like, but I feel like that is what we need to prepare for the future. So it's a great book recommendation. And I actually think that I'm going to ask everybody I interview to like offer some books in the end or some resources for people, because as you said, we're in this age of information being the hot new thing, right? So that's what I got to say. And I just want to thank you, Mary, so much for coming on.
It will be very much in trend. I mean, Uranus and Taurus gave us fake boobs, fake butts, and fake teeth and all of that stuff. Look at the Kardashians. I never knew them, but there are these women with like defined bodily features from what I know. So it's a trend, right? And then Uranus will go into Gemini, is going to be very much in trend to be smart and intelligent, intellectual, know things. You can already prepare yourself. There is one more thing that I wanted to say about your situation with losing everything, and maybe some of our audience members experience that too, because you are a healer, and healers sometimes have the hands-on experience on the things that are about to come for the rest of the society. So in my friend circle, a lot of healers had some strange thoughts about money, finances. They just disappeared. And that is like, you know, a little bit of August, September energy. Some of my friends had, they've been patented. They have had the new version of the C virus, which is really nasty. We don't need to talk about this now, but this is also a preview for like October. So we are just experiencing this to come out of this stronger and to really spread the word and prepare people. So prepare. We've given you plenty of tools, I think, today within this, what is it, 2 hours? And Arizona, I hope to see you again.
Oh, you will definitely
This
see me again,
podcast.
maybe in Tuscany. Who knows?
Well,
I
yeah,
hope
that's
so.
for
We'll talk
sure.
about that later. But thank you, Mary, so much. Yeah, this has been wonderful. And I was gonna say something and now I forgot. So we'll just call it, brain fry and just say thank you. And I hope everybody out there listening got
About attachment. You wanted to say something about attachment and how we are conditioned by like attachment and rejection, and that this is the time right now to move away from it
yeah.
on all levels.
I feel what I wanted to say also was that you said you have some friends who just like had a money thought and then it was gone. I have two also very healing type people, and was like where it all just went away, like out of thin air. Like my bank account's at zero. What happened? The mystery continues. So if we're talking about it and we know people and we're experiencing it, then a lot of people are. So I agree with you. Just know that we're getting.
Reminds me of one beautiful story when one of the great masters of Tibetan Buddhism, Milarepa, he studied in India for several years. When he traveled back to Tibet on a boat, one of his buddies, who was very envious of him and his knowledge, took all of his possessions. We're talking also like finances, right? The things that he invested into, like books, like Dharma texts, and threw them into the water. And Milarepa was like, screw it, dude. At first he freaked out a little bit, like, oh my gosh, I lost all of this tangible, what I had, what I invested my money into and my time. And then he relaxed, knowing that he has it all here.
Yep, absolutely. And it's all inside. It all is. And it's like the hermit crab. Your home's on your home right now, moving about into this new wild world. So, all right, on that note, Mary, thank you so much. And everybody out there, keep the courage in the front of your mind. Keep the courage as the carrot. And that's all we can do right now. And we're all doing our best and navigating this world together. So thank you, Mary. Thank you, everyone, for listening. And we will catch you on the flip side. There you have it, folks. If you dig this episode, there's a lot more like it to come. So be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Instagram at Wildtimes Media, and visit wildtimesmedia.com to see all that we are building. And thank you again from the bottom of my heart to the Wildtimes sponsorship launch squad. That'd be Alyse Bacine, Julie Ryan, and Andrea Donnelly. You can find all of their contact info and relevant links in the show notes below. And if you'd like to sponsor one of these podcasts, please email hello@wildtimesmedia.com for the deets. And I will see you all next week for another wild episode.